You know that feeling when everything just clicks? Your mind is sharp, your mood is steady, your body feels like it's firing on all cylinders. That's not luck, that's what your body is capable of every single day. Now, I've looked into a lot of fish oil supplements, and honestly, most of them are mystery sourced, overprocessed, blasted with heat, and packed with synthetic add-ins. But this one is different. Omega-3 Rejuvenate from Big Bold Health starts with wild Alaskan salmon and cod, sustainably caught from some of the cleanest waters on the planet, and then it's processed at low temperatures to preserve what actually matters. We're talking about real omega-3s, naturally occurring vitamins A and D, and pro-resolving mediators, or PRMs, that help your body balance its own immune response. What does that mean for you? Clearer thinking, more stable mood, and real nature-based support for your heart and immune system. No shortcuts, no synthetic nonsense. And it was developed by Dr. Jeffrey Bland, a true pioneer in the world of complementary health. If you want to feel the difference, go to bigboldhealth.com/Hoffman. That's bigboldhealth.com/Hoffman and use code Hoffman for 20% off site-wide. Once you feel it, you'll know. Welcome back to today's Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ronald Hoffman. It's our weekly Q&A with Leyla, and we're answering your questions. Questions come to questions@drhoffman.net. And we had an interesting question about something called the 9/11 protocol,
Yes.
which is something that I talked about in the wake of 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just Googled it, and I can't find it anywhere. So with the passage of time, 25 years, it doesn't appear to be picked up anywhere on the internet. And I'm not even sure if it still resides on our pages. But what I was proposing at that time was that people were going to be exposed to a lot of toxins. And my prediction was borne out, is that we have seen actually literally more deaths from the aftermath of 9/11 than from the event itself. You know, like 3,000 some odd people died immediately that morning. But what we have found is that the people who went to ground zero, the people working on the pile, the first responders who bravely started looking for survivors and cleaning up the mess, and even people in the neighborhood have a higher risk of certain diseases. Respiratory diseases, especially cancer, autoimmune diseases. And so they've set up, obviously, an emergency fund, you know, like to compensate people. And there's a big pile of money to, in effect, provide some sort of support for the people who have developed, you know, a wide variety of problems. It's really kind of hard to ascertain because in 25 years, even if you're in a pristine environment, you could develop some god-awful disease. And the question is it really 9/11? Really? Like, say you develop prostate cancer. Many men develop this. Is it a consequence of 9/11? Or say you develop COPD, you know, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, but you also were a cigarette smoker. So what is it? Is it the 9/11 exposure? Or is it the smoking?
Cigarettes.
Is it, you know, just, you know, bad luck? What is it? You know, but anyway, the point being, I wrote a protocol then. And the protocol involved giving people some things that were anti-inflammatory and detoxifying. And so I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure I suggested that people take a powerful antioxidant like N-acetylcysteine, which is good for lungs. I suggested that people take fish oil. I tried to keep it simple because I did not want to make it like inaccessible because, you know, some of the people who are exposed are on fixed salaries and they can't afford, you know, $300 a month for vitamins. So I tried to keep it to some of the basics. But, you know, what I would suggest, especially now, understanding the role that vitamin D plays in inflammation and cancer, I would suggest adequate vitamin D. It's been shown to actually reduce the risk of certain cancers. And then, you know, there's other things that are, I think, preventive for cancer. Or lately there was something about zeaxanthin. Zeaxanthin, which we think of as an eye thing, but it also seems to be helpful for cancer. And, you know, also perhaps things to support the immune system, like, beta-glucans, various mushroom extracts, things like that. Kyolic aged garlic extract is, one of these nice things that helps to support immunity. So there are a variety of things.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening historically is the initiative was located at Mount Sinai Hospital. And I actually knew a guy who was married to one of the people who was spearheading this initiative. And I said, hey, can you talk to your wife? And, that's how you get things done, is like through connections. I said, can you get this to her? And, we can even find sponsors for this. We can find maybe supplement manufacturers who want to do something to support survivors of 9/11, people who've been exposed. We can set up a fund, we can support that. And so what ended up happening is he said, yeah, but we're getting a divorce. And he said, I don't want to go there. I have no more suasion with her. So it ended up not getting adopted by this center, which was doing research on the aftermath. And so, but there was an outfit that was doing something about that. And that was the Scientologists. The Scientologists were doing something. And the Scientologists offered a program which was the Hubbard Detox Program. L. Ron Hubbard is the founder of Scientology.
Yes.
And what they offered was like, this is a blast from the past. You right? You remember this? They were offering to firefighters who were exposed. They were saying, we will let you come to sauna free of charge so you can sweat out the toxins. And we also want you to exercise because that also helps to mobilize the toxins. They had a whole protocol, including like some kind of, intestinal purge kind of thing to detox these people. And I don't think that they got enough attention because there's I think Scientology, frankly, is kind of a culty thing and it's controversial. And so that kind of gave a bit of a taint, a stigma to this kind of wackadoodle protocol. But actually, I think that these are legitimate methods of detoxification if you've had a toxic exposure. And so fast forward to 2025, 2026 now, I recently had a guest, Dr. Ailey Cohen, who has a website, The Smart Human, and she has written a lot about detoxification. So she's been a recent guest on the program, and you might listen to that podcast. And, again, 25 years later, the toxins have had a long time to remain in your body and to work their havoc. So I'm not sure that it's as applicable now, but I think for all of us who are exposed to, on a daily basis, a mini 9/11, in terms of the onslaught of toxins that we're exposed to in everyday life, I think it makes sense to think about detoxification.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. Detoxification, support for immunity as well, and mitochondrial support, I would imagine.
Sure.
As well, right? Sure. Wow. Okay. So, Gordon, thank you for that very, very thoughtful question.
But, I really wish that part of the initiative early on would have been to, in a serious way, tackle the toxic exposure using, even speculative tools, because I think one of the reasons they didn't do some of these things is, there's not enough scientific literature, but, the alternative was to just do nothing and monitor people.
Right. Which is always a fallback.
Yeah. Early detection of cancer. So we get it in an early stage, okay, fine. Give them free checkups and all that kind of stuff. Okay. That was the emphasis, but there wasn't a lot of emphasis on proactive methods of prevention, when you're exposed to toxins. And I think that that's, a missing element in our response to 9/11.
Yeah. Wow. I can't believe it's been nearly 25 years.
Quarter century. There's entire generations. Gen Z is technically people who were not born at the time of 9/11.
Yeah.
And then there's Generation Alpha, Generation Beta, the people born around, 2020. And these are people that are reading about it in history books.
Yes.
And we remember that day so vividly, having been in New York.
Right. What happened, what you were doing, what you were thinking. Oh my God, what's that? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Gordon, thank you very much for your question.
Shall we allow one of our sponsors an opportunity to share a message? Okay. So here we go. Listen up. Ever walk into a room and forget why you're there? Lose your train of thought mid-sentence? Feel like your brain is running on fumes by 2 p.m? Try Kyolic Specialty Series Smart Mushrooms Plus. This isn't caffeine. It's not some jittery stimulant that crashes you an hour later. This is a clean, science-backed formula built around certified organic lion's mane mushrooms, clinically shown to support the nerve growth factor that actually helps your brain maintain and organize neurons. We're talking real foundational support for focus and mental clarity, and it doesn't stop there. It's combined with Kyolic Aged Garlic Extract, aged up to 20 months on organic California farms, plus Aronia Berry Extract, selenium, and vitamin B12 for long-term brain health and executive function. 2 capsules with a meal, once a day, vegan, non-GMO, no gluten, no dairy, no artificial anything. Kyolic Smart Mushrooms Plus from Wakanaga. Learn more about this and the entire Kyolic Mushrooms Plus line at kyolic.com. That's KYOLIC.com. Look for Kyolic at natural health stores nationwide and online. Thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting our sponsors, because they are what make Intelligent Medicine a continuing free resource to you through their generous sponsorship and underwriting. So now back to our questions. What's next, Leyla?
Okay. Rona writes, where do you stand on GLP-1 weight loss drugs, health versus harm? I wrote about this in the Intelligent Medicine
is an essay
newsletter.
question and a half.
It's an essay question,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's, by the way, it's a continuing theme in your writings, my writings, and our podcasts, because we talk about the pros and cons.
Yeah.
And what as a nutritionist, you had, when these things were introduced, you had a choice. You could have said, look, I am a fundamental believer in the power of nature. I am averse to sketchy pharmaceutical interventions, and I am not going to get on board with this. But I think you decided different.
Yeah, I decided different because I have to meet people where they are. And many people have tried everything and regained the weight, have tried anything and everything under the sun, and they are fed up. So they're ready to take these weekly injections to turn down the food volume on the brain. And honestly, Dr. Hoffman, for so many, it's been a godsend.
Yeah.
There is a price. Because for many people, not only is the food noise turned down or completely off, there is an undercurrent of chronic nausea. To the point of where you see the look on somebody's face, you know that they're not feeling well.
Yeah.
That is there. But for those people, it's like, no, but I've lost 35 pounds. It's worth it. I'm finally getting near my goal weight. Oh my God, that's fine. I mean,
and they're overcoming health problems. They're overcoming blood sugar is getting better, blood pressure is getting better. Yeah.
All of that, they're able to reduce dosages on those medications, which I'm always very happy about. And they're no longer obsessed with cravings anymore. It's liberating. For many people, it's liberating.
Right.
The worst side effects I have seen in my practice personally are people vomiting.
Okay.
But that side effect usually would calm down after a time, or they'd start with a lower dose or something like that, some adjustment. And others, a small handful of others, nope, they just can't tolerate it.
Right.
And on the other end of the spectrum, there's a small minority of people who are taking it, and it's like they're not taking anything. It hasn't turned down the food. Nothing is happening.
Exactly.
It's not working.
They actually commented on that in an article recently. There is a genetic basis for that. that approximately 10% of people are genetically resistant to these drugs. The drugs, it's like, are you sure there's something in there? Did I get a bad batch? I'm shooting myself up with the maximal dosage here.
Are you sure it's not a sugar pill?
Right, exactly. Maybe they gave me a placebo. But it's about 10% where they just don't get the requisite response.
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. But for most, it's an opportunity. Here's the thing. You don't want to be on this medication forever. And we're finding out for those who've tried it and then tapered off, they regained most of the weight within a year. This is not great news. That's already been published in observational studies and things like that. And then there's another group of people who really complain about how they lose weight. They get what is it called? Ozempic face or something. So a lot of plastic surgeons are addressing this issue. But the biggest issue, and I think the most dangerous, is when you're losing weight from a lack of eating, you're probably no longer getting sufficient protein to maintain your muscle mass, your bone mass. There's the danger of sarcopenia. So I do advise on you have to eat differently. If there's anything left over on your plate, do not let it be the steak or the chicken or that beautiful piece of salmon, right? I don't care if you leave the broccoli behind or the salad or the potato, but that protein needs to get in because now you're eating less overall. You're just not hungry. You're just not hungry. And there's another subset of people, Dr. Hoffman, and this is where these are the emotional eaters, most of all. They find that they did this, the food noises turned out, but they no longer have a joy around eating. And they're upset by that. They're upset that it's no longer bringing them pleasure. They kind of miss their cravings to some degree, right? It's almost a little dopamine hits a little bit to look forward to.
What they say is that a lot of the hedonic response doesn't come from the gratification. It comes from the craving. So
the craving.
They've actually
desiring.
They've done this.
It's in the desiring.
They've done this with mouse experiments where they actually put an implant into their brain that goes to the craving center of the brain. And the mice will hit that to enhance their craving. And when presented with an alternative, which is the food that would gratify their craving, they actually prefer to hit the button that increases their craving. It's interesting.
Isn't that something?
Yeah,
but they say the joy is in the desire, not in having. Is that a C.S. Lewis quote, or somebody wrote that someplace long ago? But
it's like Christmas Eve, and the packages are under the Christmas tree, and that is so exciting. And then you open up the packages, and you kind of have like afterwards you feel a little like a hangover.
Right. We're a little let down or something. That excitement has now waned.
Right.
So, yeah. So there is that, and helps versus harms. These are basically it. You have to, while you're taking the medication, set up your eating habits properly. Habits take time to develop. We're often not.
It's a teachable moment. It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity to change your habits and to instill them and to ingrain them into yourself so that when the time comes to taper off these medications, your habits are already in place. You already know, these are my options for dinner. This is how much I make, how much I take, how much I eat, what I do, and the times, and the so forth and so on.
Yeah, my concern is with the very high rate of unsupervised use of these drugs, which means that people get virtually no nutrition guidance. They throttle down their appetite, which means they get less protein, which means more muscle loss. They're not instructed to do more resistance exercise to maintain muscle mass, because I think those are important accoutrements. So it's not like you're out of a job because of these things. You have a central role as a nutritionist to guide people in the use of these things, and then maybe also offer them an off-ramp when they've reached goal weight, but also they must maintain healthier lifestyle habits to sustain the benefits. So I think there's an even more crucial role for GLP-1 savvy nutritionists who understand these drugs and know how to support the use of these drugs and make the results better. Here's another concern I have is what percentage of the population would you say has a tendency towards eating disorders, either especially restrictive eating disorders? There are out and out bulimics. There are people who throw up, you know, and there's a fairly high percentage of them in the population. I think it's not 20%, but it's certainly a significant single-digit percentage of the people in the population.
Yeah. I would say it's gotten higher in recent years or decades, and I only base that on one thing. I see more and more job postings for eating disorder specialized dietitians. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
All across the continuum of eating disorders, what is going on here? And it's not just young people.
But so making these drugs available to people who already have funky ideas about food and restrictive eating patterns is really dangerous because they don't have the internal cues to tell them that, hey, you're turning into a wraith. You're becoming sick and emaciated, and these drugs are aiding and abetting your delusion.
Exactly. And ultimately your demise, if it goes far enough, an eating disorder can ultimately kill you. And the other off-label use, Dr. Hoffman, as you know, is for alcohol abuse.
Yeah, it does reduce cravings.
That's a binge too.
Yeah.
It reduces cravings for all of that. So it's just fascinating.
Yeah, I'm about to talk to, I haven't done this interview yet, but I talked to her a little bit before. I'm about to talk to Dr. Rudrani Bannock, who is an integrative ophthalmologist. And I said, are you seeing any of those eye problems that are associated, they say rarely, with the use of GLP-1 drugs? And she was emphatic. She said, oh, yeah, I'm seeing it's a condition that's relatively uncommon. It's called NION, which is an acronym for a type of venous problem in the back of the eye. And it appears, the rate of it appears to be increased when you're on these drugs for some reason. So it is something that can cause irreversible blindness, usually one eye at a time, not both eyes.
Wow.
So we're going to talk about that because she's that's popping up more. She used to see it very infrequently, but now there's an increase in the prevalence of that due to the ubiquity of the GLP-1 drugs. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to listening to that podcast. That's really something. So sarcopenia, that the loss of muscle, the loss of bone mass as well, that goes with that, the aiding and abetting of more disordered eating, what it is, eating, disordered drinking, all of that kind of thing as well. And most people would like to stay on it for life. And many people who are on it, who are really having a problem and found their cure, so to speak, they're afraid to come off of it because that food noise can come back. So again, it's about
talk about an ideal drug for the pharmaceutical industry. You know, they say that there's very little money and research going into antibiotics, and that's a big problem because of antibiotic resistance. But guess what? When you take an antibiotic, you take it for a week or two, at most. And these are drugs that you will stay on in perpetuity. And that's where ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching comes in.
Yeah. Oh, and the rarest side effect, the most dangerous one, is intestinal blockage. But that's rare. Yeah. And I've not seen that yet in any of my clients.
Right.
Who have been doing this now.
There's pancreatitis, there's gallstones too.
Yes, pancreatitis, right. One client was saying she was in the hospital for severe pain. It was pancreatitis, but they kept saying, no, she drinks. No, I don't drink. I don't drink. You're taking Ozempic. Oh, yeah.
Do you go to a hairdresser? Do you get?
Yes.
Yeah. You should ask your hairdresser, is she seeing Ozempic hair? Because that's one of the, when you restrict protein, you're actually denying your hair follicles raw materials. I wonder if the hairdressers are spotting a trend towards hair thinning or hair loss around that.
And now, to be clear, as with any weight loss diet, you're going to shed hair.
Yeah.
Everybody, no matter how you choose to lose weight, you're going to shed some hair. But
the more precipitous it is, the more likely that's to happen. If it happens gradually, it's less likely to happen.
Yeah. And vegetarians and vegans are going to see even more of that because they're going to have a very, very low ferritin storage iron stores. So that's a different.
So there's a lot to talk to somebody about. It's not like, oh, okay, you want a weight loss drug, you don't need me anymore. It's like
no, that's not it. It's the time for more counsel, more. This is how you're eating. How are you behaving? What do you think about all of this that's happening now in the setting of the food noise being turned off? Right? All those other things now to pay attention to deal with and do, especially for the emotional eaters. And they have the hardest time.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have the hardest time. And they're the population that have the least benefit from because they are indeed missing their cravings. They are indeed missing the emotionality and the comfort of all that. So that's a real behavior thing. We're meant to be psychologists too, not just dietitians, not just nutritionists.
Right.
It's true because eating is a behavior.
I think that you are naturally gifted in that regard because you're an empathic person. I know you don't have a PhD in psychology, but a lot of what you end up doing is in the realm of psychology with clients and patients. So, yeah. All right. We have time for another question. Can we hit that?
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, this is actually a follow-up question from Judy. She had the high ferritin, and we talked about how to reduce that, donate blood and all of that.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, her ferritin is a 275. All of her labs are normal. She has 0 plaque. She's postmenopausal. She takes her vitamin C separately from her meals, so she's not over-absorbing iron or anything. She cannot give blood because she's on a blood thinner. Warfarin.
Yeah.
So she's saying, so what do I do now?
Right. Okay, so when you have a high iron, one of the ways to remedy that is simply to give blood voluntarily.
Yeah.
However, that is precluded in her case.
Yeah.
So probably what they've established is a threshold probably related to insurance reimbursement, where you can go to a hematologist and you can say, I have a high ferritin. But they may have arbitrarily created a cutoff where the only time that a hematologist can draw out a bag of blood from you and then throw it into the trash or throw it into the medical waste in this case, because, we used to pay a lot for medical waste, right? That's a whole business because you can't just throw it in the garbage. To draw off a blood bag, which is what they would do if you had overt hemochromatosis, which you've had a ferritin of 1,200 or something. Yeah, you would be eligible for that. There may be a cutoff. I don't know what that cutoff is, and it depends on your insurance, and it depends on, she's probably on Medicare. Is a hematologist going to be authorized to do that? So, I would check with the hematologist, but short of that, you could take up something risky like rollerblading or rugby, something. But you probably don't want to do that because you're on a blood thinner.
No.
So that's out. You could also, in this case, reduce your sources of iron, right?
Yeah, possibly.
So what would that look like?
She could reduce her dark meat poultry. Maybe she could reduce the red meat, but, we don't want to venture into so many carbohydrates, so I'm not sure that's the answer either.
Yeah.
Therapeutic phlebotomy, bloodletting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, but let's explore that low iron diet, because there may be something to be said about that, is that in this instance, I think it's kind of futile to try and lower your cholesterol with a, vegan or raw foods diet, because there are other adverse effects of such a skimpy diet, and you can lower your cholesterol through other means. So, you could be, like you say, use white meat fish. I don't think that things like spinach contribute that much iron because the iron is tightly bound. But, you could maybe list some of the vegetable sources of iron, but it's mostly the heme iron that is the source that drives your iron up.
Exactly. Now, I'm not going to suggest that somebody with a high ferritin go vegetarian.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very little instance where I'm going to...
You could use certain animal protein with discretion, maybe not have a lot of red meat because red meat is high enough. What about, here's another one. It turns out that tea interferes with iron absorption. Yeah, regular tea.
Yeah.
So
right.
That might be something to do. Now, coffee won't do anything for your iron absorption one way or the other. But if you drink tea, it somewhat reduces your iron absorption. And how they found out about this was that in Israel, they used to have this custom of giving kids a bottle, after they had enough milk, just give them something to suck on with tea in it, because I guess the Israelis like to drink a lot of tea. So they actually found some kids were developing iron deficiency anemia, and they thought it was due to the tannins in the tea that they were drinking at this young age, where they were sensitive to the effects of tannin. And
blocking the iron absorption. It's kind of like an anti-nutrient in that regard, right?
Yes.
Because it's blocking the absorption of iron.
Right.
Well, that could be a good idea for Judy.
And tea is healthy, anti-cancer. I make sure that I have my morning cup of tea these days so that I'm not just guzzling decaf all day. So,
It is the most popular drink in the world. Tea is. I mean, I grew up on tea as a little kid. There was always tea, albeit Mom would serve it to me with sugar and milk. That's how the tea was delivered anyway. But I love a cup of straight up black tea, especially English breakfast or Earl Grey. Yeah.
That's
beautiful
teas. I had the Earl Grey this morning.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there's some there may be a workaround for her, but I would consult a hematologist around that. But, a lot of hematologists will look at that 276 number and they'll go, maybe that's not such a biggie. Maybe not.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Judy, thank you for that very thoughtful question. Good health, continued good health to you. And want to remind everybody, the email for questions is questions@drhoffman.net. That is questions@drhoffman.net. And don't forget to check out Full Script, Dr. Hoffman's store. Dr. Hoffman's Full Script dispensary, drhoffmanstore.com, where you're going to find only the highest quality supplements, some of which are very hard to find elsewhere. You can look up protocols. You could get the starter kit and move on to allergy. It's allergy season now, that it's April with all the pollen and everything. You can get into brain and detox, heart and immune, sleep and stress support.
It was suggested that I come up with another protocol, a GLP-1 protocol, like something that, things to take to support oneself while one is taking GLP-1 drugs. I got to think about that.
Yeah. That could be something. So don't forget, go to drhoffmanstore.com. It's drhoffmanstore.com.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Leyla. So have yourself a great week, and we shall reconvene once again. A reminder, it's questions@drhoffman.net for comments or questions about intelligent medicine. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
I'm Dr. Ronald Hoffman, and this is the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I want to thank you for listening to the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app, and get new episodes automatically downloaded every weekday. And please give us a rating and review. It truly helps new people discover intelligent medicine. The Intelligent Medicine Podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Finally, please visit drhoffman.com and discover everything Intelligent Medicine has to offer, including frequently updated, unbiased health news and fully vetted product and supplement recommendations.
This is Leyla Muden, registered dietitian nutritionist. I maintain a private practice and see patients regularly. If you require a nutrition consult with me but live out of town, there's no need to travel to New York City. I have telephone and telehealth consultations with clients from all over the country. Please visit drhoffman.com for more information. And to set up an appointment, call 212-779-1744. That's 212-779-1744. I look forward to being a collaborator in your healthcare.